You're at a stoplight, sitting in what looks like a cute little hatchback. The guy next to you in a modern muscle car revs his engine, smirking. Light goes green, and suddenly your little car launches like it's been fired from a cannon, leaving him eating your dust. His face? Priceless. See, there's this unwritten rule in the car world that small cars get small engines. Makes sense, right? Except some absolute madman decided to completely ignore that rule and cram massive, ridiculously powerful engines into tiny chassis. And the results? Well, let's just say controlled chaos might be putting it lightly. Today, we're counting down 7 of the most insane examples of tiny cars with engines that have absolutely no business being there. Trust me, number 3 is so ridiculous, it'll make you question whether engineers were having a bit too much fun that day. Let's kick things off with something from the Germans, because of course we are. The Mercedes SLK was originally designed as a cute, compact roadster. You know, the kind of car you'd see someone driving to brunch on a Sunday morning. Well, the folks at AMG looked at that and said, nah, this needs violence. They took the 5.4-liter V8 from their much larger sedans, the same M113 engine that was powering full-size luxury tanks, and somehow squeezed it into this little two-seater. We're talking about an engine designed for cars that weigh significantly more with significantly more space. Now, here's the thing about physics. When you put a massive V8 up front in a small car, it does wonders for your straight-line speed. 0 to 60, absolutely brutal. But turn a corner and suddenly you're fighting all that weight sitting over the front wheels. The SLK 55 became this weird split personality car. Point it down a straight road and it's a missile. Try to dance through some twisty mountain roads and it's like trying to steer a shopping cart with one wonky wheel. But honestly, that's part of the charm. You don't buy a car like this for balance. You buy it because sometimes you just want to feel that V8 rumble shake your entire skeleton. All right, let's time travel back to the late 60s and early 70s, when American muscle was at its absolute peak of more is more. The AMC AMX was already a weird little thing. AMC wasn't exactly playing with Mustang and Camaro money, so they created this stubby, compact, two-seater muscle car with a wheelbase so short it looked like someone had put it in the dryer and it shrunk. But here's where it gets interesting. You could spec this thing with not 1, not 2, but 4 different V8 engines. 4! And the crown jewel was the 6.4-liter big block. The official number said it was making around 340 horsepower, which already sounds healthy for a car this size. But here's the kicker. Most people now believe it was actually making closer to 420 horses. Why did AMC lie? Insurance rates, my friend. Back then, manufacturers would sometimes underrate their engines to help buyers avoid getting absolutely destroyed by insurance companies. So you'd have buyers thinking they got a quick little sports car when really they just purchased a barely legal dragster. That short wheelbase combined with that much power, it was essentially a mechanical bull with wheels, but in the best way possible. Now we're getting into the truly unhinged territory. The standard Alfa Romeo 147 GTA was already kinda nuts. Alfa had fitted it with their glorious 3.2-liter Busso V6, widely considered one of the best-sounding engines ever made, in a front-wheel drive hatchback. You already know where this is going. But the tuning company Auto Delta looked at the setup and thought, yeah, but what if we made it absolutely mental? So they bored out the engine to 3.7 liters, slapped a supercharger on it, and cranked the power up to 415 horsepower. 415 horses in a front-wheel drive hatchback going to the front wheels. The result was a car that automotive journalists described as pure chaos. Turn traction control off, put your foot down, and the thing would light up the front tires like you were doing a burnout competition. Steering? More like a suggestion at that point. The car wanted to go wherever the torque steer decided, and you were just along for the ride. People who've driven it say it's absolutely terrifying and absolutely brilliant at the same time. It's the automotive equivalent of riding a mechanical bull while juggling chainsaws. Probably shouldn't do it, but man, what a story. Okay, so the Ariel Atom is already pretty wild before we even talk about engines. It's basically a go-kart that someone legally registered for the street. No body panels, no doors, no windshield worth mentioning. Just you, a chassis, and 4 wheels. Now, most versions of the Atom came with reasonably powerful 4-cylinder engines. Quick, fun, probably won't kill you. But then someone had an absolutely bonkers idea. What if we took two Suzuki Hayabusa motorcycle engines, those ridiculously powerful sports bike engines, and literally fused them together to create a V8? Because apparently regular engines are for regular people. The result was a 3-liter V8 that, despite being from motorcycles, produced insane power in a car that weighs about as much as a golf cart. We're talking about a power-to-weight ratio that, in its slower version, was still higher than a Bugatti Veyron. Let that sink in for a second. This skeletal British contraption, made from what looks like scaffolding and optimism, had better power to weight than a $1 million hypercar. Driving one of these things is reportedly like strapping yourself to a rocket. There's no roof, barely any windscreen, and when you accelerate, the wind literally tries to rip your face off. It's the purest, most unfiltered driving experience money can buy. Also probably the most terrifying. And honestly, if you're gonna smash that like button, now's probably a good time. You know, before things get even crazier, which they absolutely will.
The Lotus Exige was already a proper sports car. Lightweight, mid-engine, great handling. Classic Lotus philosophy. Add lightness, have fun. But then for the Series 3, Lotus decided lightness was great, but you know what's also great? Power. So they ditched the smaller engines and went with a supercharged 3.5-liter V6 borrowed from Toyota and Lexus. This took an already quick car and turned it into something genuinely ferocious. But that's not even the crazy part. Some absolute lunatic named John Hennessy looked at the Exige and thought, this is adorable, but what if we made it clinically insane? So he created the Hennessy Venom GT. This thing takes the Lotus platform and somehow, some way, shoves a 7.0-liter twin-turbo V8 into it. 7 liters, twin-turbocharged, in a car that's roughly the size of a bathtub. The Venom GT held the world speed record for production cars for a while, hitting over 270 miles per hour. It's officially registered as a modified Lotus Elise or Exige, which is technically true in the same way that saying a nuclear submarine is technically a modified rowboat. The power-to-weight ratio is absolutely obscene. It's so light and so powerful that it's less of a car and more of a ground-based fighter jet. People who've driven it describe the experience as terrifying, exhilarating, and I need new pants. Before we get to number 1, we need to talk about some cars that are so ridiculous they almost don't seem real. First up, the Nissan Juke R. Someone looked at the Nissan Juke, that weird little crossover thing, and decided to take its body and slap it onto a shortened GTR chassis with the full GTR drivetrain. Yes, a Juke with a GTR powertrain. It's like putting a lion's brain in a hamster's body. Then, there's the Aston Martin Signet V8. The Signet was basically a rebadged Toyota IQ, a tiny city car. Aston Martin took one and fitted it with a 4.7-liter V8 from the Vantage. 430 horsepower in a car originally designed to parallel park in spaces the size of a parking meter. BMW created a secret Z3 with a V12. Volkswagen built a Golf Mark V with a W12 engine. These were show cars and concepts, but the fact that engineers even attempted it shows you how far people will go when you give them a workshop and tell them no idea is too stupid. These cars prove that sometimes the best automotive innovations come from someone asking, could we? Without ever stopping to ask, should we? And finally, the king of them all, the legend, the original "this is a terrible idea" car that somehow became one of the most iconic vehicles ever made. The story starts with Carroll Shelby, a chicken farmer turned race car driver turned automotive visionary. He took the AC Ace, a small, lightweight British roadster with a modest inline-6 engine, and thought, this needs an American V8. First, he dropped in a Ford 289 V8, and the Cobra was born. It was quick, it was raw, it was brilliant. But being American, Shelby knew the truth. If some is good, more is better, and way too much is just right. So he took the 427 cubic inch big block V8, a 7-liter monster that was designed for NASCAR, and somehow crammed it into this tiny British chassis. The result? Absolute mayhem. The car made over 400 horsepower in an era when that was basically incomprehensible. It had a power-to-weight ratio that would make modern supercars nervous. And here's the thing, it had absolutely no modern safety features, no traction control, no driver aids, just you, a massive engine, and a prayer. But Shelby didn't stop there. Because of course he didn't. He created the Super Snake version with an all-aluminum body to save weight and added twin superchargers. This thing made 800 horsepower. 800 in the 1960s, in a car with no roof, manual steering, and brakes that were basically suggestions. People who've driven the 427 Cobra describe the experience as equal parts thrilling and terrifying. The steering is heavy, the clutch is brutal, and when you put your foot down, the car doesn't accelerate so much as it tries to actively murder you. The back end wants to come around at the slightest provocation, and you're constantly fighting to keep it pointed in the right direction. And yet, it's become one of the most sought-after collector cars in the world. Original Cobras regularly sell for millions at auction because there's something about a car that's trying to kill you that just makes you love it more. The Cobra represents everything great about the tiny car massive engine philosophy. It shouldn't work, it barely does work, but when it does, it's pure, unfiltered automotive magic. So there you have it, 7 examples of engineers looking at common sense and going, yeah, but what if we didn't? From the Lotus Exige that turned into a hypercar to the legendary Shelby Cobra that's still making people's palms sweat 50 years later. These cars prove that sometimes the best ideas are the ones that sound completely insane at first. The beautiful thing is, this spirit isn't dead. Sure, regulations are getting tighter and electric cars are taking over, but there are still people out there who believe that the answer to enough power is always just a little bit more. What's your favorite tiny car with a ridiculous engine? Have you ever driven one of these mechanical menaces? Drop your stories in the comments because I love reading about people's experiences with these things. And hey, if you made it this far, you're exactly the kind of car enthusiast we love having here at Carretera. Hit that subscribe button because we've got more automotive insanity coming your way. Trust me, if you thought these were wild, wait until you see what we're cooking up next. Until then, keep the shiny side up and remember, life's too short for boring cars.